Keep in mind that we are going to be doing some future trainings in the what we call the training barge with you folks. Also, make sure that you are checking your emails for invites to these future trainings. And keep in mind that you folks are the front line in defense of keeping our students healthy. As the head night custodian, you run the evening crew that does a lot of the cleaning in that building and getting it ready for school the next day. But keep in mind that the importance of your job in preparing a healthy, safe environment for the students. So today we're going to touch a little bit on Chronos and then communication and leadership. We're going to have a little piece on IPM. We're going to talk about equipment and then lockup and alarms. So as far as Chronos, make sure that you report yours and sweepers' missed punches to the head custodian right away. That's best to do in an email, but you can put it in your log that you have communication with your head custodian with. We'll talk about the log here in just a little bit. Make sure you follow up with an email. Always follow up with an email. Your work week is from Saturday to Friday. So if you wonder when the work week actually starts, well, it is midnight Saturday morning, and it goes till midnight Friday night. Keep it to 40 hours. Okay, make sure that you're not going over your time. Sweepers should be 19 and a half, and hourly, which are your 6-hour people if you're in a high school, keep them to 29 hours as much as you possibly can. This will avoid issues with state retirement. Report any overtime to the head custodian, and he or she will contact Robin to get it approved. There are things that come up. We understand that at night. And you need to make sure that you get the building done and ready for school. And again, that's okay. Just make sure you report that to the head custodian immediately so that Robin could put his seal of approval. Let's talk a little bit about communication and leadership. Sweepers. Sweepers, make sure you are training them. Training is absolutely vital. And training doesn't mean you throw them the keys and say, there's your area, go ahead. Training sweepers means that you work with them for a short period of time. It means that you give them a map of the area they're supposed to do with specific room numbers, specific areas they're supposed to take care of. You also need to make sure that you take care of the discipline with your sweepers, that you check their work nightly. That doesn't mean every part of it, but you check selected areas nightly to make sure that they're doing it properly. If you have to discipline them for some reason, that's you. That's not the head custodian coming back and doing it. That's you. You need to take care of managing your sweepers. You need to make sure that you take care of the keys. You have some kind of a system where they come and get the keys from you when they start their shift, and they give them back to you at the end of their shift. That's something we talk with our sweepers in our orientation to make sure that they do that. They're not to leave their keys just sitting on a desk. You're not to leave them someplace. They are to come and get them from you, and they are to return them to you. Follow-up and relationships with students is very, very vital, believe it or not. Students have questions from time to time. Students will come to you for something that either they need or the classroom needs. Make sure that your relationship with them is professional and that you treat them like any other customer that you have in your building. Same with the staff and the community. They are our customer. It's very important that you follow up with requests that they have, with needs that they have. Don't just brush things aside just because, oh, this is just somebody in the community. No, they are our customer. They are why we are here. Make sure you be kind to your sweepers. They're hard to come by. And that really is true now, especially once they turn 16. They have an opportunity to go work other places and make more money. So if you've got a sweeper that's between 16 and 18, they're only making, what is it, $7.50 an hour, and well, they have other choices. So make sure you're kind to your sweepers. Make sure you train them properly. Make sure, and that doesn't mean you need to be their best friend and their buddy. No, you need to be their supervisor. But you can do that in a kind way. You can be accommodating to a point. There's a lot of give and take when it comes to working with sweepers, especially those in high school. Again, just make sure you're kind to them. Don't be that overbearing, authoritarian boss. So let's talk a little bit about communicating with the faculty, students, and community ed. Again, these folks, they are your customers, but they're also a very vital part of what you do. They can make your job a whole lot easier, or they can make it more difficult. It's really up to you and how you communicate and how you build that relationship with the faculty, with the students, and with community ed. Keep that in mind. We have our little acronym, THINK. Before you respond to somebody, if they're crazy and upset and they have a complaint, or just somebody who just has a complaint or just a concern, before you respond out of anger and emotion, we say think. And what think stands for is this. What I'm about to say or write, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it helpful to the situation, or is it going to make things worse? Is it inspiring? Does it inspire people to more positive things, or is it something that's very negative? So again, is it inspirational? Necessary? Is it even necessary that I send this communication right now, or I have this communication right now? Because sometimes we just want to react. We've always said make sure that you respond, but don't react out of emotion. And finally, the most important part of think is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to write, is it kind? Is it kind? Because we should be. We should be kind to all others. And moving on, we need to make sure that you know the chain of command and who to call in case of emergencies. And this is very important in the evening. There are certain things that will crop up, whether it's a building emergency, whether it's an emergency with one of your employees, whether you get injured and it's an emergency with yourself. Make sure you know who it is you need to call in this chain of command. Make sure you have those numbers listed. Talk to the head custodian and make sure that you know and understand this chain of command. It's very important. Also, have a logbook or a journal. We require that every one of our schools has what we call a logbook or a journal. And what it is, it could be as simple as just a little notebook, and the head custodian will write the day's date and put whatever note he wants to in there. So let's say he's communicating to a night custodian named Joe. Joe, tonight, I need you to make sure to lock the front doors at 5 p.m., set up 100 chairs in the auditorium so that we will have them for the morning. See, very, very, very simple. Or it could be something a little bit more. You could put in there something like, hey, Joe, I got some complaints last night about room 22, 23, and 24 that they weren't vacuumed correctly. Would you please make sure to follow up with the sweeper this evening? Now, the other part of this is the night custodian should be responding to these notes in the logbook. Okay, I locked up at 5 o'clock. I made sure those were locked at 5 o'clock. Okay, I got 100 chairs set up. Or I was unable to get the chairs set up because this came up, and this came up. Whatever it is, it's very important that you have this communication log. This communication log can also be used as evidence. It can be used as evidence. For example, this sweeper that you're having issues with, you can write in there, hey, we had this problem with the sweeper today. I talked to him about it. That's evidence that you have followed up. You have done your job. Now, night custodians, if your head custodian doesn't have one of these logbooks, guess what? that's no excuse. You start keeping one. You start writing your head custodian notes in a logbook. And if he doesn't respond back, well, guess what? That's on your head custodian. Make sure that you are doing the right thing and having this journal or this logbook. Let's talk about integrated pest management. So how are you communicating IPM to the faculty, staff, and the community? How many times have we heard where a new faculty member will come up and say, "I got ants in my room. What can we do about it?" And a custodian responds, "Oh, well, I don't know. We don't spray anymore." Ooh, that's the wrong answer. How are we communicating what we do in integrated pest management? If you look at the pyramid here, you'll notice the very, very cornerstone, the very bottom, the base, is education and communication. We need to make sure that we're communicating to the staff, to the faculty, and community what our integrated pest management program and process is. And if you don't fully understand it, ask your head custodian or investigate it on your own and find out exactly what it is that we do and why we do it. Make sure you communicate properly. Don't over-communicate. You don't have to give them the whole theory of relativity on this. But by the same token, you are looked upon in that building as one of the professionals who deals with pests. How about that? It's kind of a neat thing. Make sure we are communicating properly with them. Make sure that we are following up with pest activities so that they know that we are on top of it and we're trying to take care of it. Communicate to faculty and staff that you will report whatever situation it is and that it'll be taken care of. Sometimes you need to clean up problems such as vacuuming when you've got ants or spiders, cleaning carpets, taking out garbage, sometimes wiping down counters, whatever the problem is where you've got these pest activities. Again, you're the front line in defense. So help educate. Well, we need to remove these food sources, and let me help you by vacuuming. Let me help you by wiping the counters down, but I need you as a teacher to please either not bring these things in or keep them in a sealed container so that we're not getting this mess. Okay, let's move on to equipment. So auto scrubbers do not fill to the top. Don't fill your auto scrubbers to the top, folks. Rinse drain tank after each use, especially after you use Super Shine-All in the gym. Now that would be the only place you would use Super Shine-All in an auto scrubber is in like a high school gym. Other than that, Super Shine-All is something you would use. You would mop it on your hallways. Don't put it in your auto scrubbers. Okay. Going back, do not fill your auto scrubbers to the top. What happens is as you move, the water sloshes over, gets into the vacuum motor and ruins the vacuum motor and causes some of the other components to rust. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to leave dirty water in the tank. Sometimes we'll drain the tank and we forget to rinse it out and you got that little bit of residue in there and man, does it stink the next day. Battery maintenance. If you have a lead acid battery that takes water, check it and charge it properly. Check your water levels every day. Now, there are some maintenance-free batteries out there, and I get that. Those you don't have to do anything with. But for the most part, we use the lead-acid batteries. There is a battery maintenance handout that is on the shared drive that you can look at that will give you more information on battery maintenance. Vacuums. Make sure the bags are emptied nightly. Inspect the traps and the straps and the filters. Make sure that the filters are being washed out weekly. Now, you don't have to empty every vacuum every night. This is something you can delegate. Make sure that your sweepers are emptying those vacuums every night, but you need to follow up and make sure that they're being done. You need to inspect the straps. You need to inspect the traps. You need to inspect these filters. Make sure that your sweepers are doing what they should be, which is washing those filters weekly. Change the bags bi-weekly or as needed. I used to say on payday that was a good time to change the bag, but sometimes it needs to be done weekly. Again, if you're inspecting them, if you're looking at them, you will know when they need to be changed. Also, inspect the cord before each use. Now, that's something for you, that's something for your sweepers. When they throw the cord out there to get started, they just need to take a look at that cord and make sure that it's not nicked, that all the prongs are on the plug, and make sure you're cleaning your cords once a week. Train the sweepers to use a damp rag, of course, not while it's plugged in, but just a damp rag to pull along the cord and clean that cord once a week. Your dust mops, shake them out thoroughly every single day. Treat them with dust mop oil once a week. That's a very important step. And when you treat them, usually it's on a Friday, you just spray it down, you give it a light coating, and you prop it up in a corner. Don't put it on the floor to get the floor all oily. Buffers. Your burnishers, well, make sure that you're dusting those off after each use. You need to rinse the buffer pad weekly, but some people do it every day. And in fact, that's one of the things I was trained to do. You take them off and wash them out every day. That way, the next day when you go to use it, it's ready to go, it's clean, you're not going to be scratching up your floor. But we require that you do it once a week, at least. Make sure you're dusting it off, and you should probably keep one of those old, I don't know, feather dusters, wool dusters, whatever they call them. Keep something like that near where you store your buffer at night. If not, you can just wipe it off with a rag. That's fine. But again, keep your equipment clean. Clean the filter after each use, and that is the filter that's around the top. There may be a cabin filter in it, but make sure that those get cleaned on a regular basis. The cabin filter is usually once a week. And also make sure that weekly you're changing your oil. Checking your oil. Got to check that oil level. Make sure that you're putting this on the checklist. We have a checklist on the shared drive that specifically goes through these steps and how often you should do them. Make sure that you are filling out those checklists. So for lockup and alarms, first of all, most of the schools in the front have what we call the handicap doors. And there is a little button. Usually it is either on the top of the door for the handicap door that we're talking about, where you push the button and the door flies open. Yeah, it's either on the top or it's in a wall mount that takes that lightning looking key. That's what we call it, the Leviathan key. And you need to make sure that those are turned off at night. What will happen if you don't turn them off? Somebody can walk up to your school in the middle of the night, push the button, and the door flies open. Oh, now they've got access. And you've locked everything else up. Well, again, it's very important that you turn off those handicap doors at night. The head custodian can turn them on in the morning. Call peak alarm when alarm is set off. How often do we make a mistake? We go and we check a door after we've already set the alarm, or we think, oh, I've got this garbage can sitting here, I need to get it inside, let me just throw it back inside. And you set the alarm off. If you set the alarm off, call peak alarm. Call them. Tell them, hey, this is so-and-so at such and such a school. I accidentally set the alarm off. You will not get in any trouble, trust me. It's just very important that you make sure you let them know before they send out the person who's on call, and they come out and find out, oh, well, the night custodian set this off and didn't bother to call. Well, then you might be in trouble. So again, if you know or you think you've set off the alarm for some reason, please call peak alarm. Buffer smoke sets off the alarm sometimes. You might turn the buffer the wrong way and the engine will start to smoke. Make sure you call peak and report immediately. Hey, I've set this alarm off by the smoke coming out of my buffer, because they will send the fire department out, and that's not cheap. So it's very important, if you set it off by accident with the buffer, call peak immediately and report that. Power outage, call one of us, one of the supervisors. Doesn't matter which one, just call one of us and let us know, hey, my power's out. Might not be able to get my vacuuming done tonight. I might not be able to set the alarm. We'll tell you, call us back and let us know when it comes on. Also, you can call Rocky Mountain Power to report a power outage, which is a very good idea. Make sure that your generator is working. Check the grounds for down power lines. Well, don't go out there and walk around and see if you light up. That's not a way to do it. But you can look out windows and see if maybe a tree has fallen on a power line or something. Report back to us when the power is on, if it comes back on. Let's talk a little bit about outside security. Every night, you need to be pulling on doors and checking for open windows and roof hatches. Roof hatches you can do from the inside. You know where your roof hatches are. You just need to look up and make sure that they're secured. We have had several instances where students have broken in buildings through roof hatches. We had one not too long ago where they stole a head custodian's car because the keys were safely sitting on the custodian's desk. He thought he was safe because the building was locked up, but he forgot the roof hatch. It's very important as a night custodian that you secure that building properly. So pulling on the outside doors, not just going around from the inside and checking it that way. It's important to go around your building at least once a night and check all doors and windows. Make sure you pull on those doors. They may look like they're secured, but unless you pull on them, you will not know for sure. Okay, this is very, very important and vital to your employment. Just got to say that. Leaks. Make sure you know where all the shutoffs are in your building, including the main shutoff. For example, you may have a glycol leak in a hallway, and usually that's pretty easy to find where the isolation valve is. But you may have some other sort of leak that, well, you just can't get shut off, and you have to shut off the main. It's very important that you know where all of those shutoffs and shutdowns are. For the gas, for the electricity, all of that sort of stuff. As a last resort, if you don't know, call Peak and get a hold of the person who's on call and report it. See, I can't get this leak to shut down. I've looked here, I've done this, I've done that, and the person who's on call will know who to contact to send out to help you with the problem. All right, that's the end of today's presentation. If you have any questions, please contact one of the leadership team. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Again, keep in mind, we are very understanding that sometimes you're in a new assignment because we move you around all the time. You might be a new contract. You might be new to being a night custodian, period. These are all things we have to learn. We've learned them. You will learn them eventually, but don't hesitate to ask a question. Even if you think it's a dumb question, it's not. Make sure you ask. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck out there.